tariffs, that moment when everything looks and feels like garbage, but you turn the camera on anyway. Welcome back to the tea party. I may actually be going mad at this point. I had initially wanted to share a finished project with you this week involving shoes. That's not going to happen. That will happen next week, and the schedule I was trying to uphold is just getting pushed back by a week. So in lieu of something artsy-fartsy, I decided to give a self-awareness update this week instead. Since I promised an update on my no-buy, I have some things to share with you about that, and also just some thoughts to share about everything that's going on right now in terms of our economy and kind of how that's impacting me as a crafter and a DIYer. Hopefully someone else can relate to this, and hopefully it makes you not feel so alone. Let's go ahead and get to the meat and potatoes. I had initially intended to just do a no-buy challenge for 3 months in order to meet an investment goal. And while I did end up saving enough money to be able to make that investment, I chose to scale way back on the amount that I put forward just because of everything that's going on right now. Honestly, I also needed some of that to refill my, what I call the O fund, you know, that emergency fund for, you know, something happens. I'm knocking on wood here. That has actually been replenished, and I just invested less. And at this point, I feel like that was probably the best decision that I could have made. Even though I only set out to do 3 months, it's already been more than 3 months, and I think I'm going to continue to move forward with the restrictions that I put in place for my no-buy challenge. I'm doing that because, number one, I feel myself slipping into some old habits and feeling some familiar feelings that I was experiencing before I decided to do the no-buy. And while my primary reasons for doing it was to hit that investment goal, I think in the process I figured out that I was feeling so much different that it was maybe more beneficial for me than hitting that financial goal was the betterment of my mental health. I did work into the equation that I wanted to spend less time on social media and more time putting content out there into the world. And that's ended up taking the form of a YouTube channel. Where I feel like I've been slipping into old behaviors is I think I'm spending a bit too much time consuming social media again. And I am noticing that it is negatively impacting my mental health again. I don't know if it's just social media in general, which is very possible, it could be. Or it could be the fact that so much has gone right now for folks in the US that it's just the content in general of what the algorithms have to pull from. It's just there's not a lot that's looking up. I have other videos on my channel if you'd like to know the premise of what I set out to accomplish with the no-buy challenge and what the restrictions were. I'll link that up here. I'm surprised at how difficult it's been to get away from spending money with Walmart, Target, and Amazon. I thought it would be a little bit easier than this, but having the convenience of getting an item within 48 hours, I'm spoiled. And I think it's difficult to make the shift back to having to plan ahead, right? As a millennial, like, we didn't have Amazon when I was growing up, and we got by. I think that's going to require some mental gymnastics in my case, some conscious effort and thinking through it a bit more to figure out how to move away from that. And while the convenience is very appealing, I will say that the $140 that I'm spending for my Amazon Prime membership just came out of my bank account in the last couple months, and that stung a little bit. But I am also just very aware of my approach in terms of where I'm spending my money. I don't spend nearly as much as I was before. I'm also not spending nearly as much with Target, if at all. Like, it's minimal. I feel like I really succeeded in knocking out my spending on clothing. I have not spent money on clothing hardly at all. I think I bought maybe 2 pieces since I started my no buy challenge. I know I mentioned ThredUp before, and that was a huge weakness for me. Not that it isn't now, but I did end up sending them a handbag, and I got like almost $200 in credit for the handbag. And instead of spending it with ThredUp, I opted to have the money sent to my bank account. So patting myself on the back for that. That was a huge victory. And I haven't really spent money with them, I don't think at all, since I started the no buy. So that's a huge win for me. And I wanted to mention, they've really changed gears. And I think this happens for a lot of both like individual small companies and even larger size companies when they start trying to do that scenario where they have secondhand inventory that they're trying to turn over. They end up being inundated with so much stuff, and they can't sell it quickly enough that they end up having to change gears. So like ThredUp is now only accepting clothing and items from certain brands, right? So like the stuff that I've purchased from Target in the past, they're no longer accepting Target brand clothes. They want Lane Bryant, Torrid, that kind of stuff. They want the higher end stuff. Now let's shift a bit into what these shifting economic times mean for me personally as a DIYer and a crafter and creator. If you sew, you already know about Joann's and their bankruptcy situation. So we've lost Joann's, but on top of that, with tariffs being introduced into the equation, this means that fabric, especially quilting fabric, is gonna cost even more. And like already it's very easy to spend $15 a yard on quilting fabric. So when you start thinking about an increase in pricing to account for the tariffs, and I've already seen people in some of the Facebook groups that I run in saying that they are probably gonna start looking at getting thrifted textiles, which I already do. For making clothing and things like that, I aim for bed sheets because I'm a bigger girl. I need yardage, especially if I'm going to make something really flowy. And I also use it for quilting, but I have piles of clothing that I feel like I can't take anywhere right now, because even my local consignment shop that I was trying to work with, they're not accepting a lot of items now either because of the same issue. And they're not turning over what they get fast enough. I used to have this stance where if something exists as a shirt and it's still a perfectly fine shirt, don't deconstruct that, don't repurpose that. But if sewing textiles are gonna be harder to get or more expensive to get, my brain is kind of changing its processing when it comes to that. We have so much just unwanted, unused textiles in the world. And I'm in a situation now where I've got a bunch of textiles that even I don't want. And it's like, why would I get rid of that and then go spend money on, a lot of money, on yardage to be able to make things? It doesn't add up for me. People are going to be seeking comfort. People are going to be stressed. Money's going to be tight. It's already tight. Right? We've seen the whole scenario with millennials where a lot of them still live with their parents. I think we're going to continue to see that with the younger generation. My goal in this YouTube channel is to provide comfort, entertainment, and provide a sense of community. And if I haven't said it before, I'm going to say it right now. I don't care how you identify. I don't care who you love. You're welcome here. So if anybody has issues with that, don't let the door hit you where the Lord split you. I also wanted to provide information and honestly encouragement to people who are maybe just starting out sewing. Sewing for some reason seems to be something that people are really intimidated by. And it's not stuff that's hard to learn. You just have to have patience and a desire to want to learn. And you don't have to do everything, the perfect way, the right way. If you're starting into quilting, your points don't all have to be perfect, despite what the quilt police say. It doesn't have to be perfect your first try. That's okay. Sewing is a skill that I think it could be potentially really helpful if you're interested in fashion, if you're interested in making your own clothes or your own curtains, your own pillowcases, bags. You can do a lot of things with sewing skills. I think mending is a tremendous skill to have. And if we're approaching an era where people are going to be, again, tightening the belt more, then being able to identify what a good quality clothing item is will help you to allocate your money better when it comes to spending on clothes, so that you're not spending a lot of money on something that's like more fast fashion quality, but also help you to be able to maintain that item throughout its life so that you're not having to purchase that again. You can just fix it yourself. Or even if you have the interest, make it yourself. There's a lot of small businesses, even if they're based in the US, they use manufacturing overseas. So the tariffs are gonna absolutely smack them in the nose. I know there are some happenings that are supposed to be coming up soon. And personally, I don't feel that I have the bandwidth to participate directly. So instead, I am here. I am making content that generally is not related to any of that stuff, so that for someone like me who feels overwhelmed by everything that's going on, you have a place to come to forget about all of that for a little while and hopefully have some fun with me and maybe even learn something. If you're still here, thank you so much for joining me today. And if you're interested in more sewing, DIY content, or self-awareness content like my no-buy challenge, or just some fantasy geek millennial lady and her cat, go ahead and subscribe. I upload videos most Fridays, and I'll see all of you ethereal little dumplings again real soon. Bye! Ow! Always hitting my head. Always. That moment when everything is coming up brown and you turn the camera on anyway.